It's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever, Warren.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Is in a very different place than it was 2 or 3 years ago, because this idea that the dollar is going down the tubes and that instability it would cause people to run from it just doesn't seem to hold as much as it did back then. Do you disagree?
Definitely agree. The two ecosystems need to coexist, and I believe will coexist for quite some time.
So why should I care if I'm not a person who's invested in crypto already? If I don't have a dog in the fight, why should I care as a participant in the economy? I'm not going to buy stuff with crypto anytime soon. It doesn't feel like. So what's in it for me?
Well, in the US, you might not be buying much with crypto anytime soon, but that's not true about the rest of the world. Bitcoin is different things to different people. And the most important aspect of Bitcoin is that no one controls it. It's just code maintained by engineers in an open source, decentralized manner, and it cannot be diluted by the arbitrary whims of a control P at a central bank.
So we've had a lot of conversation lately about AI. The metaverse has kind of faded away. Web3, which crypto is a part of, has faded away too. It's sort of competing, I think, crypto is for the zeitgeist here. If I shouldn't care in the U.S., why should I, as an investor, look at it beyond a space for speculation and some risk?
Well, in the U.S., that is primarily what it is right now. I'll concede that. It is about an investment, and especially that's true with the ETFs, with the wirehouses now starting to offer the Bitcoin and Ether ETFs, which is just a wrapper around the actual underlying asset. But again, it is also a payment system. It's so interesting, as someone who's been in Bitcoin for this entire, since 2012, so I've been through 3 cycles. Bitcoin became different things. In the beginning, it was a payment system, and it has evolved in the U.S. because of transaction costs to be a high value transfer system, which is what makes it an investment. And of course, because it cannot be diluted, it is digital gold.
Right.
That's probably the best analogy.
Yo, everybody, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, crypto news, culture, matic warfare. We'll be your guide through the separation of money and state, coming at you live from the beautiful Puerto Rico. I'm going to be here for the next couple weeks or so, but the show must go on. Anyways, so Caitlin Long talking to Legacy Media anchor, and it's almost like a throwback to like 5 years ago conversations. Very interesting. Yes, in the United States, to be blunt, and this is why we focus so much on the revolution rather than the speculative aspect of it, because it is a revolution. Like this is what makes Bitcoin different than any other asset in the world. The fact that you can take self-custody of it, the fact that it can't be manipulated or easily confiscatable, and it protects your wealth. And Caitlin Long said it perfectly there in that conversation. I love how the anchor just kept saying crypto and she just kept saying Bitcoin. That just continues to happen. Bitcoin isn't crypto. Crypto isn't Bitcoin. Bitcoin is unique amongst them all. And what I will say is, she's absolutely right. Everywhere around the world doesn't have, most places around the world, better said, doesn't have the privilege that we have here in the West. What is that privilege? We have the privilege of a relatively stable fiat currency that allows you to, not realize that you're being stolen from at a rate where you are incentivized to seek an alternative. If you're in Venezuela, if you're in Argentina and you're, suffering through double digit or triple digit inflation, that's a different story. Bitcoin isn't seen as an investment from your perspective. Bitcoin is seen as a lifeline for you to be able to put food on the table to feed your family. That's how Bitcoin is seen. And that's what Caitlin Long was referring to. So in the United States, yeah, it could be seen, and I think for most people it is seen, to be frank, as this like, speculative investment. And that's why we focus on this show so much. We hammer it home that yes, you can see it as an investment. I say it's much more than an investment. It's a revolution. It's a way to take back your financial sovereignty and empower yourself. Specifically, if you're taking self-custody of your Bitcoin, you could take all of your wealth with you. I promise you, you will feel a peace of mind and a zen that you've never felt before when you properly secure your Bitcoin in self-custody. It gives you so much not only does it give you so much peace of mind, frankly, it gives you a sense of power, right? Because you're like, look, like, if I don't share, these 12 or 24 words with anyone and I die tomorrow, like, this is going with me. Like, this is not going to move to the end of eternity. Like, that's incredibly powerful. Like, the custodial aspect of Bitcoin, no other asset gives you that, whether that's real estate, whether that is, like, I would say the only thing that you could make an argument that is similar is gold, but there's a physical characteristic to it. Like, if it's a large amount of gold, like, it's pretty heavy. You're going to have to get a vault. Maybe you bury it in the ground. Like, compare that with writing down or stamping into metal a 12 to 24 word seed phrase. Like, it's a whole different conversation. In other news, I do want to address the topic of today's video, which is every couple of weeks or so, the Kamala campaign has a little bit of a heartbeat, like a little boop. And the latest piece coming from the legacy financial media, the headline is coming from Bloomberg. Harris supports policies to expand crypto industry. That's the headline. What I got to say about that is something that I've been saying over the last couple of weeks is talk is cheap, actions are expensive. Every single time these types of things happen, Opti and I, we scramble in the morning, we put the facts and data together so that you guys could come to your own conclusion as to whether she is being sincere or not. The fact is that Harris is part of the executive branch now. She could free Ross, or she could ask Biden to free Ross if you want to be specific with the details. And that would take the momentum out of the Trump campaign and their, policy on Bitcoin completely if she wants to get ahead of it. She can go and she can release an official statement saying, I'm going to protect the right to mine. I'm going to protect self-custody. She has not done that. Bitcoin has not been included in the official Democratic policy. It has been included in the Republican policy, and it has been included in RFK's policy. So you can throw all these headlines all you want, because what they're essentially doing, in my opinion, is they don't want to spend any political capital. They want to get the votes, but they don't want to change their tune. And once again, we will make the case for you guys on today's episode. And like always, we brought the receipts. Also, Dave Smith, who spoke at the Bitcoin conference, man, I love his takes. I love the way that he's been describing things. But most importantly, he explained the fractional reserve banking system on Joe Rogan. So this is someone who's incredibly, based. He's awake to what is happening, the scam of central banking. And most importantly, in terms of the Overton window, he's shifting the F out of the Overton window, because Joe Rogan is a mainstream podcast. It's not a Bitcoin podcast, right? So we're going to get to all of that on today's show. And we also have a very special guest today, Matt, joining us, and of course, legendary co-host Optimus Fields in the house. And I'm excited for today's show. Opti is laughing, so he's either feeling extremely.
It's a chat.
He's either feeling extremely optimistic today, or it's the chat. Anyways, Opti, how you doing?
The chat's trolling.
What are we going to talk about? What are they trolling about?
It's just me. They're just trolling me. They're low key blaspheming in the chat, but I'll allow it because it's about me. So it's actually kind of hilarious. So, well, first and foremost, actually, I'm going to save my takes until we get to these news stories. I think most people probably already know my takes about this by now. I'll hold back for the beginning of the show. But yeah, on the culture, as you can see, we got Matt, and I'm going to butcher your last name. Sorry, bro. Matt Golliher. Did I say it right?
Close. Golliher.
Golliher. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes. Hashtag Opti can't speak, but a Bitcoiner and also a financial advisor in Richmond, Indiana. So you recently dropped an epic open letter to financial advisors, and we've been constantly covering this on our show and exposing our audience to, the very real development in Bitcoin that now we are entering into, the institutional assets and Bitcoin's maturing, and we're getting a lot of coverage in the space. And you wrote an open letter to financial advisors that it's time to study Bitcoin. So I'm really excited to get into that and break it down. And maybe there's some financial advisors out there watching Simply Bitcoin, and we can get that message across that they need to understand Bitcoin. But anyways, Matt, how you doing this morning?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Wonderful, man. Actually, Nika, low-key, I didn't drink coffee. I ran out of coffee this morning. So this is just natural Opti energy, not caffeinated energy. So it might be a little off today, guys. Just a tad bit off.
100%. That is unacceptable. Offie decaffeinated is low energy, and I just want to apologize on behalf of Simply Bitcoin for decaffeinated Opti. I'm just kidding, bro. I didn't even notice the optimism. You're powered by optimism, bro. Coffee is just like some salt on top, but the optimism is what powers Optimus Fields.
It's a way of life. It's a way of life.
But anyways, you actually did send me a screenshot this morning, and I do want to mention it before we get into the show, because
let's get context. You got to get some context.
We have called this, again, I'm going to say it, Simply Bitcoin, tomorrow's Bitcoin news today. We did call this, and eventually, we said that eventually someone in the media was going to say that Bitcoin is a threat to democracy. And that actually happened this morning in an article. And it's pretty funny. So I just want to read this.
Hold on. A little more context. So she does write. She is in media. She's more of an independent media. She's been I forget her name, but it's Molly something on Twitter, something Molly. She's been a long time anti-crypto advocate. She's on her tirades on Twitter about how crypto's destroying the world and how people should stay away from it. And maybe we'll talk about it later, maybe not. But she wrote some article about the influence of the crypto industry's lobbying, but big crypto lobby industry.
I read that.
I love there. Here you go. So I love Nick Carter's response to it, which was like you attack us for 4 years and then we come together and fight back, and your Pikachu face surprise meme, like how could you do that? It's like, what do you expect? Like, did you expect us just to lay down and die? So it's hilarious. Anyways, I do want to read the passage. It says, here it says, the strategy has been effective so far. Candidates are clamoring to demonstrate their willingness to pander to crypto corporations, and sitting lawmakers are backing off tough policy stances. Is it a clear indication that the Supreme Court's 2010 ruling in Citizens United is a serious factor in the 2024 elections and a threat to our democracy? So that's something that we've been saying over the last couple of months. We've been saying that eventually they're going to use this line. And ladies and gentlemen, here we are. They have said the line. Tune into Simply Bitcoin. Tomorrow's Bitcoin news today. Straight up. All right, everybody. Before we jump into the show, I do want to give a shout out to our lead sponsor. Of course, I'm talking about Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. It's a publicly traded company coming out of Canada that recently expanded to all 50 states, and it's automatic self-custody. Buy real Bitcoin, enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada and the US of A. What does automatic self-custody mean? That means every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, it does not allow you to leave it on the platform. You buy the Bitcoin, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. That perfectly aligns with our ethos of the separation of money and state, because after all, self-custody is the revolution. Every time you earn Bitcoin, every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn Bitcoin Well points. you can use those points towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest. It's a contest that lets you win. Now, you literally win every single time, but you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshi. So we're going to play one for you guys right here. Get your Lightning wallets ready. Toss a coin into the Bitcoin Wishing Well. Bada boom, bada bing. First person to scan the QR code wins 500 Satoshis. If you use promo code SimplyBTC, SimplyBTC, when signing up to BitcoinWell.com, you get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin Wishing Well for an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers. Lots to talk about.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Everybody, you want to make it over the finish line with your generational wealth. And the way that you do that is by properly storing your seed phrase. Usually when you buy a hardware wallet, it comes with a piece of paper that's labeled 1 through 12 or 1 through 24. You don't want to store your generational wealth on paper. You don't want to do that. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage, your dog could eat it. You want your generational wealth to last generations, which is exactly why you should get yourself a stamp seed titanium seed phrase storage kit. Literally proof of work, stamp your seed into titanium. The kit comes with everything. It comes with the hammer. It comes with the letter press tool kit things so that you can literally stamp your seed phrase into titanium so it survives the test of time. It is fire damage. It is salt water proof. It is dog proof. If your dog eats this, he'll probably break its teeth. It's not a good idea. So you want to maintain the relationship with your grandchildren. You want them to talk to you. So you don't want to write down your generational wealth on paper. Stamp it into titanium only with the stamp seed. Head over to stampseed.com today to get started, and you could use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the website. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $60,590. Sats per dollar, 1,650. Block height, 857,936. Blocks to halving, 192,064. Halving estimate, March 28, 2028. Total network capacity, 4,785. Capacity value, 290 million. Realized monetary inflation of Bitcoin, 1.43%. Continuing to take fiat currencies to absolute school. Market capitalization, 1.2 trillion. We are just getting started. And Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 6.93%. I can't wait for it to hit that 100% number and then overtake the market cap of gold. That is going to be glorious. Anyways, here's our boy. Let me put this up because I can't hear myself enough. There we go. Here's our boy, the BTC therapist, one of the best content creators on Bitcoin Twitter. And he says, fractional reserve banking and why the entire financial system is a scam explained in 3 minutes. Here's Dave Smith doing just that on the Joe Rogan podcast. By the way, this is the same Dave Smith that we played you guys a clip of a couple days ago of his words at the Bitcoin conference, and they were just absolutely fire. We need more of this, ladies and gentlemen. The way that we win this revolution is winning over the hearts and minds of individuals, and the way that we do that is breaking the F out of the Bitcoin echo chamber and getting the masses to talk about Bitcoin, to talk about why does my money lose purchasing power? Why does money need to lose purchasing power in order to function? What is government? What is money? We need all those questions being asked by average everyday people, and the government does not have very good answers for that. So anyways, let's check out this clip by Dave Smith. I'm going to play it at 1.25 the speed because it is about 3 minutes and 11 seconds long. Let's check it out.
The whole system of fractional reserve banking is really kind of this fascinating thing, because everybody still kind of has in their mind that if you kind of have in your mind that the money in your bank account is your money and that you're holding it, that they're holding it for you. Right. But that's not right. That's not what's going on. And if you ever actually read the contract that you sign when you open a checking account, that's not what it is. It's more like you're loaning money to the bank and they owe that money to you, but they don't have to give it to you. You could, legally speaking, you could walk in tomorrow to a bank. I mean, no one actually walks up to a teller anymore.
It's a Wonderful Life isn't a Christmas movie. It's a banking movie.
Oh, yeah. So that is the scene. I was right about that. Okay. But so you could walk into the bank tomorrow and your checking, account balance is whatever, say it's $5,000, and you could go, I'd like to take out $2,000, and they can say, no, you can't have it. Now, they owe it to you, technically, but they don't have to give it to you. They're not just holding it for you to give to you on demand. Now, the system hasn't collapsed, so they will give that to you today if you walk into a bank. But
if too many people come in and they want too much money.
Well, they don't have it.
Yeah.
Is the point. So when you open a bank account, and I don't know exactly what the reserve rates are now, because I know they did change this during COVID, but for a while it was 10%. Was what the Federal Reserve set as the reserve that you had to put away. So when you come into your bank and you give them $100 to open a checking account, just to make it an easy number, they hold $10 and they loan out $90. And now, so they'll loan that money out, and so essentially they owe you $100. But the effect of this, right, is that now there's this guy. So let's say you open the account with $100. Now there's another guy who takes out a loan for $90, and you're now in the economy, and kind of like you think you have $100, and he thinks he has $90, but really there's not $190. There's only $100. That you get what I'm saying? But now here's where it gets even crazier than that. This guy doesn't just hold his $90. He goes and puts it in the bank. And so the bank holds 10% of that money and then loans out 90% of that to somebody else, who then puts that money in the bank. And then they take 10%. So when you actually look at the effect of it, there's like not nearly as much money in the bank as we all think we have. So essentially, if everybody came into the bank, or even just too many people came into the bank and said, we'd like to withdraw our money, there's nowhere near enough money for them to give you. So inherently, the whole thing is kind of a house of cards.
It's like when you're going to a stadium and you try to use your cell phone, you realize there's no signal, even though you have 5 bars.
Right.
Because everyone's using their phone. So there's no signal for you. You can't get online. You can't make a phone call.
Right. Like this thing only works if we're not all trying to do it at the same time.
Exactly.
But if we do, then we're in a lot of trouble.
Okay, so he did mention a very interesting number, which is 10%. Ladies and gentlemen, that has changed. The reserve requirement in the United States is 0. So they don't even require, the United States government doesn't even require U.S. banks to hold reserves. So my question to you is, and again, it has to be simple questions, because simple questions are what goes viral, right? If you have to ask someone else for permission to use your money, it isn't your money. The money in your bank, it ain't your money, it's the bank's money. And you have to ask the bank to use your money. But what happens if everyone asks the bank at the same time to use their money? The bank doesn't have the money. That's exactly what happened in the 1930s with the bank runs. That's why they installed the FDIC insurance, that basically the federal government insures every deposit at a bank for up to $250,000. Do they have enough money to, insure everyone's deposit? No, they're going to have to print the difference. This is the scam of the system. Like, this system is a scam of a scam. When you have Bitcoin in self-custody and you run a node, and you're verifying your own copy of the blockchain, and your Bitcoin is in custody, that's in your custody. That isn't being fractionally reserved. That isn't being lent out. If you want to have an idea of what happened with Celsius and FTX, it's exactly this. They sold Bitcoin. They lent out Bitcoin that belonged to other people. They rehypothecated Bitcoin. They put it all in one pot. And when everyone said, hey, let's start withdrawing, they didn't have the Bitcoin to give back. That's happens. It's like it's a story as old as time. Happened with Mt. Gox, happened whatever. If you trust another person with your wealth, why would you do that if now you have the tools to not have to trust anybody, but you only have to trust yourself? The thing is, what he just said is not common knowledge. Most people do not know that. If most people knew that, Bitcoin would seem a little bit more appetizing, wouldn't it? Right? If most people knew that, they would say, this is why you hear stories of like older people just keeping cash under the mattress. Like, this is why you hear those stories. The reason they hear those stories is because like they remember being rugged, right? So make yourself unruggable. And the way that you make yourself unruggable is by taking self-custody of your assets. Believe it or not, Nico is a fan of physical gold. I just don't think physical gold is, as convenient and as scarce as Bitcoin. So, I'm a fan of self-custodying my assets. When you self-custody your assets, that comes with a tremendous amount of responsibility from a security standpoint. That's why I love the Second Amendment. That's why it comes with personal responsibility. You're not outsourcing that to a third party, right? So if you lose your 12-word seed phrase, or it gets lost in a fire or in a flood, this is why we literally recommend the stamp seed. There is no 1-800 number to call to get your Bitcoin back. It is gone forever, literally. So, with great power comes great responsibility. I don't think it's crazy. If you can take care of a baby, if you can make a sandwich, you can take self-custody. It's not rocket science either, right? So anyways, I wanted to play that clip for you guys because every single day, Opti and I, our life dedication is to get people to wake the F up to the scam that is the traditional financial system and the scam that is fiat money. Imagine working your entire life for those precious dollars, only to give those dollars to a bank that isn't really holding those dollars anymore. What a scam. Imagine if you actually put your work into something that you actually custodied, that no matter who was in power, no matter what the fiscal policy of your government was, you are holding unconfiscatable wealth. You're reclaiming back your financial sovereignty, and you're reclaiming back your time, your energy, and your work. Look at throughout history, multiple different countries, including the United States, so many examples of bank runs, even in the Bitcoin/crypto industry. We had bank runs. They're just not called bank runs. They're called exchange runs. It's the same concept though. People trusted other people with their money, and when they came to collect, they said, "Sorry, I lost it basically. I just can't give it to you." People get upset, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to sue that person," but you never get your money back. You know how you avoid that? Become unruggable, take back your financial sovereignty, learn how to take self-custody. Opti?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, we wouldn't ever really need Bitcoin if fractional reserve was a thing in the first place. This is probably why we're in the position we're in. Remember what was written in the Genesis block, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout. We've seen this play out multiple times. This is literally the reason for Bitcoin in the first place. But on the flip side, it's absolutely incredible that most people don't understand fractional reserve banking, and that's probably why they don't get into Bitcoin, because they don't understand the fundamental problem that Bitcoin is solving, and that's why we have a lot of work to do in Bitcoin content creation and, of course, here at Simply Bitcoin. But just very simply, a bank wouldn't be a business if they were just holding your assets or holding your money and not doing anything. There wouldn't be a business there. And so it really blows my mind that most people don't understand the business that is banking. And it's very simple. They loan out the money, they loan out your money, and then they give you back interest, a little bit of the money that they potentially make.
It's literally like a penny. It happens every month.
Yeah. It's
month in your bank
minuscule.
account. It's 0.0. It's like 0.001%. Like even in the quote unquote savings account, it's like 0.02% interest. It doesn't outcompete inflation. You're essentially losing money. You're paying the bank to lose money, essentially.
100%.
And they charge 100%. you a maintenance fee. It's a scam of a scam.
This is why we Bitcoin. And then further, I also was going to clarify on, it was at 1.10% and now it's 0% reserved. So they literally don't have your money in the banks at all. And that hasn't changed since 2020. And if that doesn't terrify you, I don't know what would. Because if you ever really need your money in a pinch, and there's an argument to make that there is potentially some catastrophic black swan events coming in the future, that you will need cash on hand and your debit cards and credit cards won't work. And it's just absolutely scary to think that most people won't have any cash or anything to survive on. And as a Bitcoiner, everyone in the chat's like, we need a bank run day. It's like Bitcoin is the bank run. This is the whole point of Bitcoin. Take your money out of the bank. Yes, becoming your own bank is scary. but it's what has to be done at this point, because we can't trust these people to not do what they're going to constantly do, which is just debase your currency and, loan out all the money you put in a bank. Like, this is just the business. This is the incentives. And this is why, as a Bitcoiner, we're like, take your Bitcoin into custody so you don't even give them an option. Anyways, Matt, I see you nodding along. As a financial advisor, are Nico and I lost in the sauce?
No, I read The Creature from Jekyll Island in college, and at first I could not believe that's actually how the modern banking system worked. So then, of course, I continued reading to such an extent. I'm actually frustrated it took me so long to take a serious look at Bitcoin, which I didn't do until 2020 or so. But in that book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, a line that the author says over and over again is, the name of the game is bailout, where the stated purpose of a central bank or the Federal Reserve is to act as a lender of last resort and stabilize the banking system. But in reality and historically, its purpose and function is to privatize profits and socialize losses, which is what we see over and over and over again, and is what the incentives are designed to do. So if you've heard the phrase, the result of a system or the outcome of a system is its purpose, you can kind of view central banking from that lens. So no, I'd say definitely not off base on anything that you've been saying.
Wow, Nico, we're so much smarter than we look. Love it. Love it. Actually, though, Nico, before we move on, we do have a super chat. Shouts out to Lawrence Forbes, $5 Canadian. And he goes, yo, before we get a separation of money from state, we need a separation of Opti from Chrissy Lagarde.
Oh man. I mean, dude, Opti is the ultimate, like, he's plugged in. Opti's
all right, keep it going.
Opti, I didn't mean to say that. Opti is within the sentence.
All right, next segment, move it on.
Opti has Opti is he's our guy. He's our guy.
Wait. Let me cut you off here.
Cabal, yeah.
Can you blame me after what Matt just told you? This is the incentives of the game. I am a Cantillon hunter here.
When Opti gets wifed up with Chrissy, like, he's gone. He's like, I'm gonna have to find a replacement. He's gonna start his own show. It's gonna be simply CBDC.
I'm gonna be on the French Riviera in my yacht with my silk scarves. I'm never coming back.
There is some truth to that. All right, everybody. Before we move on to the news, what I gotta say is stay tuned, because there's lots to talk about. And if you guys are enjoying the show so far, there's about 1,061 of you guys watching live on YouTube and X, and about how many of you guys on Rumble? Let me see. About 50 of you guys watching on Rumble. Make sure to smash that like button. Consider subscribing.
Wait, Nico, we got another one. Oh man, we got to figure out the formatting of the. Maybe we read them at the end of the show, but
what, the super chat.
The super chat.
Okay.
All right. So Satwise Jank super chat $5. Abdi, get off that old bag of bones. Chrissy Lagarde will never love you like us. Don't be tempted by her offer for.
Oh man. All right, everybody. Let's get to news. Lots to talk about.
Man.
Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more.
All right, everybody, I made it easy for you guys. Not only do you have to properly secure your seed words You need a hardware wallet. That's how you and that's how you don't technically need a hardware wallet, but I highly recommend one because it's what makes cold storage like easy for most people. And of course, we recommend our sponsor, Passport by Foundation Devices. It's completely open source. It's Bitcoin only. If you've never used a hardware wallet before, they have a concierge service. So you can when you're buying it on the website, you can add that to your shopping cart, and they will literally walk you through how to set it up. And by the way, you can use promo code SIMPLY and you'll get a discount. So head over to the Foundation website. You can check the link in the video description, scan the QR code, and get yourself a Passport by Foundation Devices. Okay, so I'm going to start off with this. See this face right now, her laughing? That's exactly what's happening right now. This is something that we've been covering for the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to show you two things before I read into the article. The headline for the audio listeners, this is on Bloomberg, by the way, says Harris supports policies to expand crypto industry. Aide says, not Harris says, Aide says. So when I saw that, I said, okay, let's compare and contrast. Trump and RFK. I will protect self-custody and the right to mine. Kamala, Aide. Supports policies to expand industry. Major difference in those wordings. Do you see how the bottom one is very open-ended? Supports policies to expand the industry. What industry is she talking about? What type of expansion? Trump, RFK, I will protect self-custody and the right to mine. There's nothing open to interpretation there. It's straight and to the point. There, it's kind of like support policies to expand it. What does that mean? What does that entail, right? So we've been covering this over the last couple of weeks, and we've tried to remain open-ended and open-minded. It's time to put up or shut up. What does that mean? Come out and say something. You can free Ross right now. You're part of the executive branch. It's time to say something. So we're going to continue hammering this point home because it's not fair for them to get free votes for words. The last 3.5 years, the current party in power in the executive branch has gone after the industry in like 20 different ways, whether it was the denial of Caitlin Long's federal banking charter, Custodia Bank, which, by the way, is a fully reserved bank, not a zero reserve, fully reserved bank, and it was denied a federal banking charter. Whether it is the proposed 30% tax on the Bitcoin mining industry, whether it's the attack on self-custody, whether it is the arrest of open source wallet developers like the Tornado Cash guys, which set the precedent, which led to the arrest of the Samurai wallet guys, and that inevitably led to the exodus of multiple Bitcoin wallet lightning companies out of the United States. This is supposedly land of the free, home of the brave, but you know what? We know where Wallet of Satoshi isn't available: China, North Korea, and the United States. That is insane, and that is 100% because of the policies of the current administration, not to mention Gary Gensler's unholy crusade on the entire industry. The first day that they held a so-called crypto town hall, Kamala didn't show up, but members of the White House did. That same day, the Fed and the FDIC sued Customers Bank. Customers Bank is one of the last remaining pro-Bitcoin banks in the United States. So I'm going to go back to something that I've been saying over the last couple of weeks. Talk is cheap. Action is expensive. It's time for action. It's not time for more of this bullshit. So Harris supports policies to expand crypto industry. What does that mean? What does that entail? Where's the show of good faith? Is Kamala going to say this? Because all I see is this, laughing, right? Anyways, Vice President Kamala Harris will back measures to help grow digital assets. A policy advisor to her campaign said, highlighting efforts to court an emerging cryptocurrency industry expanding its political influence. Quote, she's going to support policies that ensure the emerging technologies and that sort of industry can continue to grow. Brian Nelson, senior campaign advisor for policy to the campaign, said that when asked about the vice president's efforts to engage with the crypto community during a Bloomberg News roundtable at the Democratic National Convention on Wednesday, some crypto investors have rallied behind former President Donald Trump's campaign after the Republican nominee said he favored decreasing government regulation on the industry. The Republican, who previously called cryptocurrency a scam, now holds at least $1 million in digital currency and has said that the U.S. should embrace the industry lest China pull ahead. Harris's team is signaling they're still interested in implementing safeguards on the industry, which has seen the collapse of numerous high-profile companies. Quote, obviously, they've expressed that one of the things that they need are stable rules of the road, Nelson said, pointing to a Harris speech that laid out the initial pillars of her economic policy last week. In remarks during a campaign event in swing state North Carolina last week, Harris did not specifically mention digital assets, but vowed that if elected president, she would, quote, focus on cutting needless bureaucracy and unnecessary regulatory red tape. Do you see how the media is literally filling in the blanks? She has not said anything. It's an aid. This isn't even part of, and we're going to get to the receipts in a second, but I do want to finish this article. So it goes on to say, encourage innovation technologies while protecting consumers and creating a stable business environment with consistent and transparent rules of the road. The cryptocurrency industry has bristled under what it sees as a burdensome regulatory regime under President Joe Biden's administration, and this year is looking to flex its clout, including through sizable political donations. Trump has said he would fire SEC Commissioner Gary Gensler, whose term is not up until 2026, pick regulators friendly to the industry, form a crypto industry presidential advisory council, and create a stablecoin framework. That approach, with offers to scale back regulatory enforcement of cryptocurrencies, has seen Trump win the support of predominant crypto enthusiasts, including billionaire twins Cameron and Tyler Winklevi, who run Winklevi Capital Management, and large investors in Bitcoin. I can't pronounce that name. I apologize. Rohini, who previously served as Harris's domestic policy advisor, said at Wednesday's roundtable that the nominee's approach to the economy as one that would give more certainty to businesses in contrast to a second Trump administration. Businesses are concerned about the chaos of a second Trump administration and what that means for not knowing rules of the road and making sure that they have an opportunity to grow and thrive in the economy. Trump, if returned to power, has vowed to renew expired tax breaks, that sounds awesome, and implement sweeping tariffs on U.S. allies and adversaries alike, a move that critics warn could exacerbate high prices and upend global trade. Okay. Anyways, so that's the article, right? Making the case as to why, we gotta get Kamala in. She's signaling that she supports policies to expand the crypto industry. According to an aide, even though she never said this directly at any of her speeches, trust me, bro. So let's get to some of the receipts, shall we? Here's the official Democratic Party platform. It is on their website. You go to democrats.org and you'll find it. Every 4 years, Democrats from across the country join together to craft our party's platform. You can download this PDF. In fact, I'm going to put the link right here in the chat for you guys. Don't trust verify. Opti, I'm not, the link thing is not working. I'm putting it in the private chat so you can do it. Feel free to not take my word for it. You can download it yourself, and you can press the Control F thing on your keyboard and search for crypto, search for digital assets, and that entire party platform, you will not find it one time. It is not mentioned there. So you have to trust me, bro, and trust an aide, essentially, that she's going to change the existing policy of the Biden administration, which has been literally hitting us and jailing us and going after us for the last 3.5 years. You're going to have to trust me, bro, that they've changed their minds, even though in their policy, they have no mention whatsoever of anything related to crypto and Bitcoin and digital assets. So there's that. All right. Now let's compare and contrast with the Republican Party platform. Here it is, number 5. Again, I'm going to put this in the, I'm going to send this to Opti so he can put it in the live chat. Don't trust, verify. You guys could find this yourself. Number 5 of the Republican Party platform. Republicans will pave the way for future economic greatness by leading the world in emerging industries. Crypto. Republicans will end Democrats' unlawful and un-American crypto crackdown and oppose the creation of a central bank digital currency. We will defend the right to mine Bitcoin and ensure every American has the right to self-custody of their digital assets and transact free from government surveillance and control. I mean, compare and contrast that with this article. That's clear. That's straightforward. That's telling you exactly what's going on. I told you guys, both Trump and RFK have said this vocally in speeches. Here's a clip.
That the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in the USA, not driven overseas. I will support the right to self-custody to the nation's 50 million crypto holders. I say this with your vote. I will keep Elizabeth Warren and her goons away from your Bitcoin.
So, I mean, pretty straightforward, pretty blunt. And again, if Kamala came out tomorrow, because this is green versus orange, it's not red versus blue, I'd wear a Kamala shirt, no problem. But that's not the case. So this article is bullshit. That's what I gotta say. This is not included anywhere. She never said this directly. It's a he said, she said, an Aide, not Kamala. In the article, it literally said that she specifically didn't mention this. Like here, in remarks during a campaign speech in swing state North Carolina last week, Harris did not specifically mention digital assets, but vowed that if elected president, she would focus on cutting needless bureaucracy and unnecessary regulatory red tape. Like, do you see how like the article is trying to connect the two things, even though they're not connected? Like, this is bullshit. Okay. And you'd be like, okay, Nico, you're still freaking crazy. You're so biased. This is other bullshit. One of the cases that I've made for you guys is you can't be a pro-Bitcoin and pro-CBDC politician. They literally contradict each other. And we got the receipts. There was a bill that was passed in the House, and check this out. A bill to ban the Federal Reserve from issuing a CBDC passes the House. Now let's take a look at the votes. Almost every Republican voted yes, no Republican voted no, and 4 Republicans did not vote. Only 3 Democrats voted yes. 192 Democrats voted against a bill that would ban a CBDC. So you want to know why this isn't in the platform? Well, don't pay attention to their words. Let's pay attention to their actions. Their actions are letting you exactly know what's going on. And if you still don't believe me, here's Elizabeth Warren herself to tell you guys.
In theory, a digital currency issued and backed by a central bank could provide the advantages of cryptocurrency without those risks. The Federal Reserve, a trusted institution, could provide a digital version of cash to the public that is secure, stable, and accepted everywhere. So let me ask you, Professor Menand, what role could a central bank digital currency play in reducing these kinds of risks to financial stability?
So a well-designed CBDC could serve as a public alternative to these cryptocurrencies and potentially crowd out their usage. In contrast to private digital currencies, CBDCs would be sovereign, non-defaultable money. They'd be cheaper to use, and they would not be subject to bank run dynamics.
Right. So that's very helpful. Thank you.
I mean, like, it's very clear. It's like, let's get a CBDC so that people don't use Bitcoin. CBDCs don't solve inflation, and CBDCs don't solve confiscation. They don't solve those issues. But she's telling you exactly what's going on. They want to create a monopoly so that they can roll out a CBDC. Don't pay attention to Nico. Look at their votes, right? Look at the policy. They don't mention Bitcoin. They don't mention digital assets. They're not interested in that. Their voting record and Elizabeth Warren herself are telling you what they want. They want a central bank digital currency being rolled out in the United States. And fundamentally, the reason that they want that is they want to retain the power of being able to create money for free that everyone else has to work for. They want to retain their monopoly on the creation of money and the control of money. Bitcoin is a fundamental threat to that. And Elizabeth Warren, for the last 6 months, has used every tool in the book to try to go after the industry. She's tried to connect the industry to terrorism. She's used money laundering. She's used everything that you can think of. In that part, she was being really insincere. Protect people from bank runs? If you take self-custody, bank runs that doesn't exist. That's not even possible. So what is she talking about? And then another thing that guy said, and I'm going to pass it on to Matt to get his opinion, is this whole dynamic where I'm not going to allow them to take that ground. Fiat money is private. Bitcoin is public. Everybody could mine Bitcoin. It's a publicly auditable chain. Anyone could download the Bitcoin software and the Bitcoin blockchain, and you can audit it. It's public. Can you audit the Federal Reserve? No. Can you print more dollars without going to jail? No. What is more private and what is more public to you? So this whole thing where this is public money, no. It's politicians' money. That's what they meant. That's what they mean when they say public. And they're merging the words to capitalize on that and convince people of things that are not true. So once again, every time one of these bullshit articles get releases, until I literally see Kamala Harris say, I will protect the right to self-custody and I will protect the right to mine, we will continue to show the receipts because it is utter bullshit. There's no substance behind anything that is being said in that article, while there's substance being said by both Trump and RFK. That's my honest opinion. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the key word you said there is protect. In that news article, it mentioned that an aide to Kamala Harris campaign said that they would support policies to expand the industry. If Bitcoin is a profound technological innovation, it will expand on its own. It does not need public policy in order to create an artificial expansion of the industry. That would be like coming out in favor of policies to support the expansion of the internet 20 or 30 years ago, where if you're an internet entrepreneur or you own an internet company and you're an honest, profit motivated business owner, you don't need the government to promote policies to expand your business. You just need them to get out of the way and eliminate the artificial barriers and restrictions that are between you and your goals. And so that's one distinction that I draw between the crypto digital asset friendly rhetoric among some politicians versus the ones where I actually pay attention, because those ones are framed as, we don't need to do anything explicitly Bitcoin friendly. We just need to defend property rights, which along with that comes with defending the right to mine, defending the right to self-custody. And at the end of the day is not anything that they shouldn't be supporting anyway. You either have property rights or you don't, whether it's a piece of physical real estate or whether it's Bitcoin. So I would echo your sentiment. In the long run, the political incentive is for bureaucrats and politicians to embrace Bitcoin, though. So whether or not any one particular candidate or administration comes out with the rhetoric or policies that we want, at the end of the day, you can't really ban Bitcoin. You can only ban yourself from benefiting from it. And so the long-term trend of superior technology tells us what the long-term future is going to be, I think. So I try to zoom out, and even though it is the case that politicians can make life difficult for Bitcoiners within their political jurisdiction, increasingly technologies like Bitcoin cryptography and things like that. To paraphrase a quote from the book, The Sovereign Individual, the modern nation state is so used to treating their citizens like cattle to be milked that I think they're soon going to realize that those cattle have grown wings and they now need to treat them more like customers. And we're starting to see that not just nation state to nation state, but also intra nation state with the Confederation of the US and the different policies at the state level. People will start voting with their feet and they will move to the political jurisdiction that defends their property rights and defends their ability to use the best monetary technology in the history of the human race, which is Bitcoin. So, ultimately, I saw that press release on Kamala Harris. I kind of rolled my eyes and moved on because, I agree completely with how you described it.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a really good point, and I just want to emphasize to everybody, like, I don't care which political party is in power. What I care about is their stance towards the industry, because I am a Bitcoin business owner operating in the United States, right? So if Kamala changed her stance, I literally would not care. But the reason that we started covering this stuff is because of all the things that I listed in the past. So many things that have happened over the last 6 months to a year. And the moment that they locked the samurai guys in prison, they arrested Roger Ver. Okay, it gets to a point where, we got to say something. And honestly, they created an opportunity for the opposing political party to capitalize on it. In that article, it even said it, like, Trump wasn't exactly pro Bitcoin / crypto, a couple of years back, right? He only became this, and, everyone will point this out. He only became this because he saw a political opportunity to get votes. Like, that's what politicians are. That's like how the game is played. So people say, oh, he's pandering. Like, yeah, that's how it works. Like, that's the whole point of that's the point of someone representing you in government, right? They're supposed to pander to what your wants and needs are, right? So, like, again, like, it's kind of like put up or shut up. I want to see action from the Democratic Party, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think there is going to be any, and unless they lose this election and they really get a shock, right? And the reason that I say that is because look at their voting record, look at the actions, and when someone wins an election, essentially that's a mandate from the public. That's basically saying you're doing a good job. Keep going. That's what that means. That's the sign that you're sending. Like, that's how elections work, right? So Simply Bitcoin, we are not a partisan channel by all means. We're not Republican. We're not, libertarian. We're not liberal. But, we got to be honest here of what's going on. It's our duty to do that as, people that cover the news every single day in Bitcoin. That article is bullshit. That article is is talk to get votes without action. And we're calling it out. Opti, what are your thoughts?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I did write some notes because there's a lot of stuff going on. To be fair, completely here, Elizabeth Warren is right. A CBDC would stop a bank run because there would never be a bank run because they could just add more credits to a CBDC. So she's kind of right there, Nico. She's, kind of right in a roundabout way. There won't be bank runs on a CBDC because they'll never run out of money. They just add zeros to the database. Like, it's very, very simple. And guys, also, this is probably the first time in my life I've actually watched any of the political camps. And so trying to be as objective as possible. I did watch the DNC this week. And, I'm trying to be as objective as possible, but everything I'm seeing coming out from the Democrats is a bunch of platitudes and rhetoric and no substance in policy. And I think this example that Nico is showing right now from Bloomberg and this just like, trust me, bro, Harris for crypto for Harris campaigns, there's no substance to it. There's no policy. There's no simple, like, we will protect your right to custody your Bitcoin and mine in the U.S. Like, it just needs a very simple statement on that. And then I think this would be a null argument and it wouldn't be a hot button topic like it is right now. And to be fair, like everyone's saying, Trump isn't perfect. I don't know if you guys saw this news this morning that also came out. He put on his True Social that, the Trump kids are releasing some DeFi platform thing to rival banks called the Defiant One. So it seems like he might be going down the shitcoin rabbit hole, but at least it's trending towards the right direction. And if you add with the rumors that we're hearing on Twitter and on, I forget what podcast it was, of RFK Jr.'s right-hand lady, RFK Jr. might be dropping out and joining Trump's camp. So that would be a very strong move in the Trump camp being extremely pro-Bitcoin. I see a lot of people in the chat, they're like, RFK Jr. is like the real Bitcoiner and Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, now if they align forces, that might be a huge move. And then, of course, some people will say like, oh, only Trump in the MAGA cult is for Bitcoin. But pretty much the whole Republican platform has embraced Bitcoin. They've embraced anti-CBDCs. So whether you can say that, oh, it's just because they follow Trump or not, I think they see the writing on the wall. Bitcoiners, if they vote, is a huge voting block. I think the last numbers, and we can always fact check this, is over 50 million people hold Bitcoin and crypto. So it's a huge untapped market of polls and potentials here. Like there's a huge untapped amount of ballots here being worked on at play right now. And so the fact that they are embracing Bitcoin in this year's election is moving up the timelines right now. We were talking that maybe next election it'd be a hot button topic. Now it's on our doorstep. So obviously we want follow through. Of course they're pandering for votes. Of course they're saying what the people want to hear. But I think that is a time of the sign. So like love Trump or hate Trump, Bitcoin is on the balance sheet and Bitcoin is maturing. Bitcoin is palatable to the public consciousness. Like, even that article said it. And I've seen people in the chat say it as well. Like, oh, Trump was anti-Bitcoin in 2016. He didn't do anything for Bitcoin in 2016. You got to remember how tiny Bitcoin was at that point in time. It didn't have the maturity that it now has. It didn't have the mind share that it now has.
Didn't have Larry Fink.
Yeah, it didn't have Larry Fink. Like the Overton window has shifted enough now where it's becoming, like we've said before, and we're going to talk about this in the culture. Like in the past, financial asset managers or institutional asset managers, it was career suicide for them to embrace Bitcoin. Now it's career suicide for them not to embrace Bitcoin. And this is a sign of the times that we're seeing right now. And so it's very interesting to me. And Nico, we had the infamous Optigate in the past where like, I'm just like, I've had enough of this already. And we're trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. But like the Democrat Party literally chose to pick on a group of people that weren't politically organized, that didn't care about politics. And now that we're organizing, they're either calling us bad, they're calling our industry a threat to democracy. And now they're trying to like retrace their steps and pander and be like, oh, trust us, bro. Like, we're going to do some good for the industry. And it's like, all right, put up or shut up. Like, yes, of course it's your job to talk. Of course you're a politician and you're supposed to, spew out rhetoric. But we need some action here because we're getting close to the elections. And I know everyone that watches our show that isn't American or even some Bitcoiners, like who cares about politics? It's fake. Politics cares about us. And now that we're in the limelight, like we should care, we should organize, and we should be very vocal about this. Like Bitcoin is on the ballot sheet in 2024, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Like if RFK Jr. does join Trump as a Bitcoiner, I don't know. The choice is very obvious to me at this point.
100%. 100%. All right, everybody, let's get to the culture. Let's talk to Matt. I'm really excited about it. Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Daily Culture.
Everybody, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Orange Pill app. Stack Friends Who Stack Sats join the 11,822 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. Stack Friends Who Stack Sats. Join the Bitcoin social layer. The Orange Pill app is one of the best resources if you're on the go, if you're traveling, if you're just moving around and you don't know any Bitcoiners around you in your city, or perhaps you're traveling for a conference. and perhaps you staying for a week, but you don't know any Bitcoiners around you, or you don't know any events around you, the Orange Pill app is the #1 resource for that. It will literally allow you to DM Bitcoiners that are near you. You can connect with them. You can see the events. It's awesome. It's one of the best ways to reach me directly. If you want to reach me directly, send me a message on the Orange Pill app. I don't really answer Twitter DMs or emails these days from just mysterious people or people that I don't know. So best way to reach me is the Orange Pill app. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. So I'm really excited about this. We got Matt on the show today, and we're going to talk about this.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just set some context here. So Matt, you dropped this article the other day. I think it's, what's it say here? June 24th, so about a month ago. And it's an open letter to financial advisors, and it's titled, "It's Time to Study Bitcoin." So as a financial advisor, I know, like, Larry Fink's got in the game, and we're seeing kind of some trickling of institutional asset managers and financial advisors starting to embrace Bitcoin. But we haven't seen the floodgates that I think all of the Bitcoiners are waiting for. And of course, I've been saying for a while, it's going to take them a little while to, change course and do their fiduciary responsibility and research this. So as a fellow financial advisor, what is the TLDR of this letter that you can expose to our audience? Like, what is the fundamental message that you're trying to get across to fellow financial advisors?
To boil it down, the big message is you need to take this seriously and you need to study it. As anyone who's tried to orange pill anyone else before knows, I did not attempt to try to orange pill my colleagues with one letter because that's really not possible. The goal of the letter was to trigger in them enough curiosity that they read a book about Bitcoin. They spend a Saturday afternoon learning about Bitcoin, because that's the first step down the rabbit hole. And I tried to make the case because in our industry, the ETFs definitely shifted the narrative around Bitcoin, where it is taken a little bit more seriously as a potential investment, but a massive number of financial advisors still to this day cannot offer it to clients because that's based on their firm's policy and whether the firm allows them to offer it unsolicited or solicited, whether they have restrictions on the allocation or the amount of Bitcoin that can be owned in a particular account. And so all of that's going to take time to develop. But even with that shift, the majority of advisors I talk to, even if they went from all that thing's all crazy to, oh, I don't know, it's interesting, the majority of advisors still just flat out are not paying attention to it. For example, I would say most financial advisors, at least that I talk to, are not aware that Bitcoin hit a new all-time high this year. They just do not pay attention to it. And I used to be one of those advisors. So the goal of the letter is to try to give them enough concrete examples to raise their eyebrows and say, wait, is that true? Or, what happened there? And to continue the learning process. So if I'm successful, then hopefully I will have done for some other advisors what Saifedean Amos and Jan Pritzker and the authors of some of the first Bitcoin books did for me, and set them down the Bitcoin rabbit hole.
100%, 100%. So, what is like the feedback? Because I'm sure, I think all Bitcoiners, we all go through kind of a similar phase where like you have that epiphany moment and then you want to tell everyone about it and you become the annoying Bitcoiner guy. And so, Nico and I aren't financial advisors. We're just, again, guys, this isn't financial advice. We're just Bitcoiners on the internet covering stuff. But what has been the response that you've gotten maybe before the Larry Fink Bitcoin ETF was approved, and now, like, what are you seeing recently?
Honestly, not a whole lot has changed, at least from what I'm seeing from colleagues and clients. The biggest shift, I think, is just that colleagues think I'm a little less crazy. That catapulted Bitcoin, I think, into mainstream finance in a way that it hadn't spent as much time there. But by and large, the dynamic has not shifted all that much. You're seeing incremental steps like institutional money starting to leg in small allocations, and the Bitcoin ETF is what allowed them to do that in a relatively frictionless way. So it's all good, but it's all on the margin so far. There has not been, at least so far, one major step function that I can identify as, oh, that's really different compared to 6 months or a year ago.
Let me ask you something. Matt. If in traditional, like, if you had a client, for example, I'm just throwing out examples here, right? If you had a client who, is older gentleman, right? 40, sorry, like it's like 50, 60, 70 years old. So he can't take as much risk as someone who's younger, right? He's still wanting to plan for retirement. What would be the proper allocation that you would recommend? Like, what would you say would be, because obviously me and Opti are degens, we're like 100% plus, but like we're
all in.
We're younger guys, right? We're willing to take on, I'm speaking the finance talk, right? We're younger guys, we're willing to take on that risk. But let's say you're older, you're successful, you've made your money. You have real estate portfolio, you have equities, right? The whole shebang, typical kind of investor, and they see Bitcoin. What percentage allocation would you recommend to them? And my second question to that is, and the way that I see it, and I acknowledge that I'm incredibly biased in this topic, but I don't think it's an option at this point. I actually have really good friends of mine that work at Goldman, some of the big banks, and I troll them all the time. I think it's a disservice to not have at least some exposure to Bitcoin at this point. I think that if you are a financial advisor or a wealth manager, and you don't have a percentage allocated to Bitcoin for your client, you are actively hurting your client. That's my opinion. So I want to get your take on those two questions and points.
Yeah, so I'll start with a boring financial advisor answer, which is it depends on that client's investment goals, time horizon, risk tolerance, etc. But the only blanket answer that I'd be willing to say is something above zero. And that is my goal for clients who don't own any Bitcoin, have never owned it, don't know much about it. Oftentimes, I do not actually recommend they make an allocation to Bitcoin, because in order for them to benefit from Bitcoin, they need to do more than buy it. They need to hold it over the long term. And the ability to hold it through volatility is a function of someone's knowledge and conviction, or by proxy, their trust in us and our recommendations. But at the same time, I am hesitant to offer a blanket recommendation to shove clients into an allocation of Bitcoin if they know nothing about it, because that puts them in a position where they could see downside volatility. They see some wacky anti-Bitcoin news headline and they sell at the worst possible time. So the one recommendation I do give to all my clients is you need to start learning about it. And then once they're ready, starting with a small allocation, because as you guys know, the more you know, the more you own, typically with Bitcoin. So the initial goal is to get them off zero. That tends to get them learning a little bit about it on their own, because they see the value jumping around on their statements, and that makes them more inclined. Just like my goal with advisors is to trigger enough curiosity in them to get them to proactively learn about it on their own. A lot of the times that's my goal with clients. So having said that, we do now offer portfolios that include Bitcoin exposure to our clients, managed portfolios. And no one portfolio is right for everyone. But as one example, we have one that's goal is to give a client, similar volatility as they would get if they were 100% invested in the stock market, but to do it in a way that if Bitcoin continues to outperform, they also get outsized returns. So one example there, in a broadly diversified portfolio among several different asset classes, including stocks, bonds, gold, that one has a 17% Bitcoin allocation. So that's one example. Again, doesn't mean that that's appropriate for someone who's at zero to jump into that, but that at least gives you one example of how we're thinking about it.
Else, and perhaps this, let me ask you something else, and perhaps this question is a little bit controversial, but so, we essentially have been living in a world where fiat currencies has created an environment where people have been forced to invest to maintain their purchasing power. And, Parker Lewis has wrote a great piece on this. It's essentially over financialized everything. And the case that he's making is that we'll see a great definancialization of things as people are not forced to look into assets just to maintain their purchasing power, right? So, if you're a wealthy individual, right, let's say, you have a couple $1 million, you're not going to leave that in the bank. You're going to get wrecked by inflation. So you're kind of forced to, either invest in real estate looking for an 8 to 10% return, looking in, at S&P roughly around the same return. So you're looking for those returns. You factor in inflation. It's not really 8 to 10%. It's more like 5 to 4%, right? So what would you like, in a way, like Bitcoin kind of comes in and it kind of shrinks the financial industry in a way, because all of a sudden you don't have to come up with these creative ways to maintain your purchasing power. You can just buy spot Bitcoin, take self-custody of it, and, go about your day. What would be your response to that?
One of the points I made in that open letter to financial advisors is that Bitcoin is not just some new shiny investment that you might want to take a look at. It is your competitor for the exact reason you just mentioned, which is that the last, especially, 50 some odd years of fiat money has stimulated a massive demand, artificial demand for wealth management services, because everyone, even if they don't know the particular dynamics about fractional reserve banking or inflation, everyone intuitively knows if you have $1 million, you can't just leave that in your checking account for 10 years. Everyone intuitively knows that's a bad idea, even if they couldn't necessarily articulate all the reasons why. The idea that you have to do something with your money has been so hard-grained into anyone in this country who has any significant amount of wealth that they don't have an alternative to engaging with my industry unless they want to go out and manage their own investments. But a lot of people don't want to do that, so they hire someone else to help them navigate the complexities in the investment world. And that's why a lot of us have jobs. So I believe the long-term effect of Bitcoin is that it will shrink my industry. And that's both a threat and an opportunity for advisors today. A threat for the advisors who continue ignoring Bitcoin, and an opportunity for the ones who embrace it and are able to offer clients Bitcoin-related financial services, which increasingly over the decades to come is where I see our industry shifting toward. But for the ones who continue ignoring it, unfortunately, I think the thing that's going to make the light bulb go off over a lot of advisors' heads is when they lose one of their big clients because they don't offer Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
And that's great. And I'm so glad that you said that, because you hit the nail on that. You are aware of what I just described, right? Which is, yeah. And I see the disconnect, right? With, these are people that I grew up with. Like, these are my high school friends, and, they're working at these investment banks, and I'm like, dude, like, and then every single time, for example, it came out that Goldman had exposure to the ETF. When the Larry Fink thing happened, the ETF got I always just take no comment. I just take a screenshot, I send it, yep. And I just get the response. And the response is always like Pikachu face meme, like, because this is someone that I've been telling about Bitcoin. I've been in the industry for 8 years now. This is someone I've been telling. Can you imagine 8 years, right? The first time about Bitcoin was like under $1,000. And I'm like, dude, like, this thing is going to work out. And the whole time I was just being gaslit, essentially. And it's like, hello, like, you can't ignore it. Like, now that you have banks in the Swiss Central Bank, the Central Bank of Norway, you have the Wisconsin Pension Fund, you have the second largest bank in Europe. Now you have Goldman. they all have exposure to Bitcoin now, right? Like you can't just bury your head into the sand like an ostrich and pretend this thing's going to go away. Like it's coming, it's here to stay. And I think that as time progresses, and of course, like you can't say this, Matt, because it would be irresponsible of you, but like obviously as Bitcoiners, we are biasly bullish. But you know, we continue to believe that it's going to continue to outperform everything, right? Or at least a portfolio that has Bitcoin is going to continue to outperform a portfolio that does not have Bitcoin. Better put like that. So yeah, I think that, you know, I would say it's not only potentially putting yourself at risk if you work in the financial services industry and you don't offer Bitcoin, but I also see it as a great disservice to your client as well.
I think that's right. And, you know, our focus on our existing clients is trying to do a good job of educating them about Bitcoin. Some of those clients will never buy Bitcoin, and that's okay. You know, as long as we do a good job of continually bringing it up and educating them, you know, we're doing Bitcoin seminars now for clients in the community, then that's really all you can do. But there are some people who are ideologically opposed to it. Bitcoin can trigger cognitive dissonance because its existence and continued success does violate some fundamental assumptions that a lot of people have about the world and the way the world works. And so embracing Bitcoin can sometimes require rethinking some foundational pillars of someone's worldview. But really, our firm has identified Bitcoin not just as it being our fiduciary duty to educate clients about Bitcoin and offer Bitcoin to them in a variety of ways, but we also see this as the best business opportunity that we're going to see in our careers. And our primary strategy for growing the firm moving forward is helping Bitcoiners who also own traditional financial assets and want help from an advisor who has a deep understanding of Bitcoin. And that has worked out pretty well so far, and we expect that to continue working out well into the future.
I would also expect that. Nico, we did get a good question here from Mikkel in the chat. Matt, what do you tell your clients that own Bitcoin ETFs if they ask about cold storage?
We have an in-depth conversation around the benefits and trade-offs of self-custody. So I frame that for the client as essentially the trade-off is that you gain sovereignty and control over your money, but with that also comes the responsibility. So, you know, we use Swan to be able to offer spot Bitcoin, actual Bitcoin to clients. And one of the reasons we picked their platform is because, well, number one, they're Bitcoin only. They're not a crypto platform. But number two, because they allow clients to withdraw the Bitcoin into their own custody. So it is important to me that our clients know how to self-custody Bitcoin. And I will describe to them, even if you choose to leave your Bitcoin on platform, even if you choose to continue trusting us to custody it, either spot Bitcoin or via an ETF, that's fine. But you don't want, if something happens, you know, overtly hostile legislation or something that causes you to want to take possession of your Bitcoin, you don't want the first time that you take possession of it to be when you have to. So we have a conversation around the different options for hardware wallets. We explain the trade-off there, and I encourage them to learn about it. But again, I do not want to drag anyone kicking and screaming into self-custody, because if they're not ready for it and they don't take it seriously, as we all know as Bitcoiners, there are potentially catastrophic, irreversible consequences to that.
Agreed.
100% agree with that. Man, well, this is it's incredibly excited. It's incredibly exciting to me that, you know, there are people in your industry, in your sector, that see the benefits of Bitcoin, see the writing on the wall, see how it's going to fundamentally change not only the world but your industry as a whole. And I'm super glad that you guys are capitalizing on that, and it's benefiting your business. Bitcoin always benefits anyone who like adopts it. You guys are on Team Bitcoin. That's awesome. And I also love the fact that, and this isn't like a lot of the other financial services, like a lot of the financial services industry, you're offering two options, right? You're offering exposure via the ETF, you're explaining the trade-offs, and then you're offering exposure via, actual spot self-custody Bitcoin. So that's incredibly awesome. And just a little bit of a, reality check to some people watching in the show, right? Because this is a hardcore Bitcoin maxi audience. They are older people, believe it or not, who have made their wealth. They are very comfortable. They own their home, and they have pretty awesome lives, and they just don't see, they don't see the risk benefit of taking on exposure to Bitcoin. Obviously, I disagree with that. I think everyone would benefit from Bitcoin, but they're going to continue having awesome lives because they've already built up their wealth, right? That's a little bit different for the younger generations, where I would definitely be a little bit more extreme and say, if you're a millennial or you're a Gen Zer, I don't think you have an option but to use Bitcoin to save and grow your wealth. But, if you're a boomer or, perhaps an older Gen Xer, I've met plenty of these people. They're older, successful people. They've made their wealth, and they see it as a risk for whatever reason. But, maybe at 600K, they'll be like, you know what, now's the time, right? So number go up is the best convincer. And, Matt, I love having, these types of perspectives on the show, so we can have these types of conversations. And just it gives you guys, everyone who's watching, like a different look into a different facet of the industry that perhaps you didn't really know existed, because everyone just hangs out on Bitcoin Twitter, right? So I do want to thank Matt for joining us on the show today. Matt, where can people find out more about you, more about your services? Where can they find you on the interwebs, and where can they find out more about the company that you're with?
Yeah, so we are in the process. We just launched a division of Vista Investment Partners called Orange Horizon Wealth. That's purpose is to deliver Bitcoin-focused wealth management services and solutions. So that website is still being stood up, but you can find a splash page currently at orangehorizonwealth.com. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, or they have questions or anything like that, I'll spell it out. They can reach me via email. That is matt.golliher@vistainvestment.net. It's matt.golliher @Vista, V as in Victor, ISTA, the word investment, singular with no S, .net. Those are the best places, at least currently. The Orange Horizon, our new venture, it took us about 3 or 4 years to clear all the things we needed to do to create the bridge between TradFi and Bitcoin. But now that we can do what we want, it's a couple months in the making, so we're still in the process of that web presence, but there's a few places.
Wonderful. All right. Well, I do want to thank Matt. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Today is August 22nd, 2024. This is your Simply Bitcoin live episode of today. I'm your host, Nico. This is my co-host, Optimus Fields, and our guest for today, Matt. If you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Like the show. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode.
Wait. Also, drop comments in the chat or in the description. Let's see what you guys are thinking about this stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let us know any topic that we talked about on today's show. If you disagree, if you agree, let us know down in the YouTube comments if you guys missed the live show. All right. Love you all. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Episode was brought to you by bitcoinwell.com, on a mission to enable independence.